Welcome back, everybody, and thanks for returning for step 3 in developing your emergency disaster plan for individuals that live with a functional need for them and their families. My name is Ray Morris. I'm the founder and CEO of Dads for Special Kids, and I commend you guys for hanging in there and going through each one of these steps. It's not easy. It takes time, and it can get a little overwhelming at times as you start to look at all the different things that you have to contend with and trying to develop your support system. And that's when step 3 really comes in. We're looking at is identifying your support system. And this can be a little tricky one, and sometimes can be a little disheartening as you try to find people in your life that are willing to step in and help you out in a time of emergency or disaster, that you're not left strictly by yourself. And which tends to be the norm in our culture is people with disabilities have a small support network, that they don't have a lot of people in their lives. And a lot of that is just basically due to people don't know how to deal with people with functional needs. I know as a child growing up with my dad in a wheelchair, I'm 9 years old, 10 years old, and I'm pushing him around in a wheelchair, and he's 6'1", 6'2", 220, 230 before the accident, and a lot of people would just stare at us, like this is wrong. What's this young kid, young boy's pushing this big man around in a wheelchair. For me, I didn't think anything of it. It was just, man, that's my dad, and what else am I supposed to do? And people don't know how to enter into somebody's world that does have a disability functionally. And a lot of it is, I don't want to call it ignorance, but they're not familiar with that culture or environment. I try to, when I'm teaching and speaking with people, is get them to understand is, entering into a world of somebody that's a deaf or hard of hearing culture. You have to look at it as you're entering into their world. It's just like if you were to go on a vacation and you go to, Indonesia, for example. If you've never been to Indonesia, you don't know the culture, you don't know the language, you're going to feel out of place. But once you start to get to know the culture and you get to know the language, you become more comfortable and familiar with it. That's the same as when you enter into somebody's world that has a disability, diabetes, epilepsies, hearing impairment, mobility challenge, cognitive delays. You're entering into their world. You have to learn their customs. You have to learn their language, learn how they do things. And so as an individual with a disability or functional need, remember that when you're reaching out and trying to attract people to be there to support you in the event of an emergency disaster. I teach when trying to merge the fire service with disability community is bring the two together, have them get to know each other, learn an individual to say it's working with STARS in Scottsdale, bringing them into the fire service and get them to learn the fire service language, culture, customs, lingo. And just like the same was when bringing the fire service into STARS, is they have to learn the language and customs and lingo of that community. So now we can have communication and collaboration. So it takes time. So as you're looking at the people that can possibly be there, you have to approach them, talk with them and share with them. And in the guidebook, there's a section there for the name and the age of the person that you're asking to be, that is part of your support system, or it could be that you're looking at who's going to be part of your system. Their contact information. Okay, how do you get a hold of them? By phone, text message, email, backup communication. Don't rely upon one form of communication. And then also special considerations in working with that person. It could be somebody else with a disability that's part of your support system. You need to work with that of how are they going to be able to be there for you. What accommodations need to be made for them. Okay, so you want to identify your support system early on, and that's where it's right now is starting to take the time to look at who is your support system. You don't want to wait till a disaster falls or an emergency and then you're scrambling. Identifying them early and talking with them and sharing with them and find out what it is that they can do, what are their limitations, how do you work around that, and what responsibility are they willing to take on. Okay, so the bigger the support system you can have, the more people to say, the better off you're going to be. Okay, it's like in the fire service. If you ever notice firemen, we don't travel by ourselves. We're always in groups, and it's minimum a group of 2 people. Okay, because there's strength in numbers. You know, for example, I go into a fire. I'm with my partner Brian. I go down. Brian's there to help me pull me out, and we've already established that relationship. Yeah, there might be moments in the career Brian was going to say, "Nah, we're leaving Ray. Something happened." No, he's going to be there for me just as I'm going to be there for him. Okay, you want to do the same thing. Don't be by yourself. Create a support base that's larger than just 1 or 2 people. Get 3, 5 people that are there to help you, because something may happen and they are not able to be there. You want a backup plan, and a backup plan to the backup plan to say. Okay. Now, step 3 is not a long step, but it is a very deep step in reaching those people and talking to them and find out, you know, what they can do for you. You know, you have to look at people who's going to be able to be there to say, you know, if you're a quadriplegic, who's going to be able to be there to help get you out of bed, to change your clothes, you know, take care of all the personal hygiene things. You know, if your bed goes, you know, you're relying on electricity and power goes out in your bed, you know, do you have a manual bed? Is there a manual way of cranking it up and lowering it and changing those positions so you don't get bed sores? You know, or, you know, on the other side, somebody with diabetes, you know, being able to monitor their diabetes, you know, having them their insulin. Is their insulin able to be refrigerated? Okay, so you want to look at all those kind of things and continually to talk with them. Okay. And also in step 3, there's a section where you write the person's name down, their relationship, contact information, and then identify their roles and responsibilities. Make sure that they know. You know all the things that you need. You have a list that you've made of all the things that you're going to need in the event of an emergency or disaster. The things that you need to maintain a minimal quality of life. You know, it may not be the quality of life you want. Okay, like for us, Zachary, he wants to be able to watch all his Thomas, Barney, Blue's Clues, Bear in the Big Blue House. Well, in a disaster, he may not be able to watch all of those. So he's not going to have all of them, but he may have a couple of them that he's able to watch and be entertained with. Okay, so you have to look at your things. What are those things? And then identify who's responsible for them, their role in meeting those things that you need. You know, it could be somebody that brings you over food. You know, somebody takes care of your water supply, takes care of your medication. You know, comes over just to visit. A lot of that is very important. Just having somebody to visit, spend time with, not just being cooped up by yourself in a room, but having that human contact is so important in maintaining your quality of life. You know, you don't want to be isolated, and that's another thing that typically happens with people with disabilities, functional needs, is that they're very isolated. You know, and they do that just, you know, trying to protect themselves, but it's not very healthy. So I'd identify everybody's roles. Also, it goes on is in finding transportation. If you need transportation, you know, who can you rely upon? You know, the city transit system may be down. You know, what's another form of transportation that you can get around it? Okay, and being able to get places that you may need to, getting to your evacuation location, getting to a shelter. You know, you want to take time to think about that and plan beforehand. Another big thing is having your out-of-state contact person for support system is somebody that's not local. They found when the towers went down in New York and disasters, a lot of local communications through phone line, cell phone is down. It's overloaded. Okay, but reaching outside, you know, calling out of state is possible. You know, for us, we have a contact. It's, you know, it's up in Beaverton, Oregon. It's Kelly's sister, and she's our out of state contact. So if I can't get a hold of Kelly, she can't get a hold of me or Tyler or whatever, we know we can contact her, and she will relay the information on. You know, hopefully I'm in a good relationship with her at that time, and she'll relay the true message on to Kelly, and not say, "Oh, Ray went off this direction," some bogus information, joking around. No, but you have somebody that you can utilize, out of state. It's very important, and make sure that they're willing to accept that responsibility, and they have your plan, and they have the contact information, so they can be a vital part in communicating. Because it might be text messaging is the only way we can communicate. It can't be, via phone line or something like that. Okay. So have this contact information on your person. If it's in your cell phone, your iPad, or something like that, it's great. But also make sure you have a hard copy somewhere too. Like for us with Zachary doesn't have an iPhone, doesn't have an iPad. So we have to have a way of keeping that information on his person in some way, or in his support system of that information, so the people that are caring for him have the ability to contact and make contact with us. Like I said before, phone numbers, cell phone numbers, text messaging, and emails are good forms of communication. Okay, and then also have, and in your support system is local utility numbers. Power, police, things like that. Non-emergency numbers. So, for example, something happens in the Phoenix area and we lose water. How do we get a hold of the water company? How do we find out how long's the water going to be out? Okay, you want to have that. A phone number, website's also good, because a lot of places now in today's culture, everything's updated right on the website. Okay, so you know where to go beforehand. So you have to look at water, power, electricity, and gas, garbage pickup. Okay, that can be a big thing, especially here in the Southwest in the summertime. If garbage isn't picked up for a week or so like that, there's going to be a lot of rancid smells, decomposing of things, a lot of flies, a lot of pestilence going on. So we want to make sure that we can control that as best we can, knowing when it's going to get picked up, or have an idea of the time frame of that taking place. So also look at any support system number you may need. Care providers, respites, therapists, American Red Cross, sheltering locations, your pharmacists. Okay, if you need medication. Okay, how do you get a hold of the pharmacist? For us, I was just talking to Fry's down here, which is part of Kroger's system. How does their emergency plan work if something was to befall the Phoenix area, and giving medication out to people? And the pharmacist said the best thing that you can do is to keep the bottle. Keep the prescription bottle that has the doctor's name, the prescription number, medication, and milligrams, that they can dispense to you a few days' supply of medication if something happens and computer systems are down. That's their system. CVS pretty much does the same thing. So on a side note, with your medications, keep the bottles. Don't just put your daily doses in the little dispensing thing for the week. And because if you have to bug out, evacuate quickly or something, you want the bottles. It's very important, especially if you have to go to a shelter. So that's it on a support system. It's taking the time, looking at who's in your life, who you can invite into your life to help be there for you in the event of emergency disaster. And it's fearful, it's scary, because you're asking for help from people, maybe people you really don't have a relationship with. And that can be good, because that can expand your social network, people that you interact with. Okay, talk with other people that are in similar situations, and do collaboration with each other in developing a broad support base for emergencies and disasters. Okay, because like I've said before, you can't rely upon the government. You can't rely upon the fire department or the police department. We want to be there, but in a big disaster, we're not going to be able to be there for everybody. Okay, so you got to take care of yourself till we can get things up and running. Get the infrastructure back in the city of power, and get commerce back up. So the grocery stores will have food and supplies and things like that. So, like I've said before, our culture is really not used to it. We haven't really had to deal with, disasters and things like that on a large scale, and especially here in the Phoenix area. And we rely a lot upon technology. So we got to utilize it to our best, but just take one step at a time. Thank you once again for watching step 3. Hope to see you on step 4, and remember to go back and review the previous steps, and it takes time. So thank you again, and have a good day.